Hello, affiliates. It's time for a newscast, possibly the very last one that we have here at UPI Radio, the last full one, starting 10 seconds from Mark. Around the world, around the clock, this is UPI News. The death toll in Turkey has reached at least 6,300, with that changing by the hour as more bodies are found underneath the earthquake rubble. The BBC is reporting the death toll actually rose by 2,000 this morning in just the first few hours of sunrise. Now tens of thousands of other people may still be trapped under the collapsed buildings. Frank Donahue is with the American Red Cross Emergency Response Team in the area.
We came here to Izmit last night, and this is the largest hospital for a population of about 1 million people. And this center has treated over 1,500 critical cases. There's literally people lined on the street waiting to get in here. It is a very, very serious situation here in Izmit.
This is being called one of the strongest earthquakes ever. One worker is dead, 2 hospitalized following an accident at an auto steel factory complex. That's where an explosion killed 6 workers back in February. Officials say the victims inside a Rouge steel blast furnace building were apparently overcome by toxic fumes while crossing a catwalk. Ford Motor Company plants share that complex with Rouge. More out now on John F. Kennedy Jr.'s plane crash. UPI's Neil Augenstein says it appears the flight came close to a jet just before it went down.
The National Transportation Safety Board says an hour before it crashed, Kennedy's plane flew too close to an American Airlines jet. So close that a radar controller alerted the crew on the jetliner. The NTSB will not say how close the planes came, but says there was no apparent risk of collision. It was close enough, though, that the American Airlines pilot told the radar controller that he could see Kennedy's plane from the cockpit. The incident happened over White Plains, New York, 150 miles from where Kennedy's plane crashed in the Atlantic.
From the UPI News Center in Washington, I'm Shirley Smith. There's another snag in the Mideast peace process. BBC correspondent Tony Smith says the latest talks between the Israelis and the Palestinians on implementing the Y peace accords have broken down. Both sides apparently disagreeing over the issue of releasing the Palestinian prisoners.
The King David Hotel in Jerusalem, venue for just the latest stalemate to afflict the Middle East peace process. This time the contentious issue is that of prisoner releases. Despite the handshakes, Israeli negotiators have refused to bow to Palestinian pressure to resume the program of releases agreed in the Y peace accord.
The Israeli leaders apparently are vowing not to release any Palestinians convicted of murder. There's also some confusion over when any release may take place. South Korea's 3 security-related ministers are visiting the United States, China, and Japan. This in a concerted effort to end North Korea's missile program. The unification minister leaves Monday on a week-long visit to the United States. This is UPI News. Firefighters from Chicago and several suburbs have been pouring water on a 5-alarm fire at a warehouse. It's filled with corrugated cardboard and glue. A small fire at the Royal Continental Box Company grew into a spectacular conflagration that consumed the block-long building. Another tropical depression has formed in the eastern Atlantic near the Cape Verde Islands, the 4th one so far this Atlantic Caribbean hurricane season. It is not expected to directly hit the islands, but it could pass very close to them. On a personal note now, this is the last day of operations at UPI Radio. The UPI Radio network will cease to exist and service will be transferred to AP. I know that I speak for all of us in the broadcast division when I say that it has been an honor to be associated with such a professional and historic organization. I'm Shirley Smith, and that's the news from United Press International.
This is the UPI Radio Network in Washington with the 12:10 p.m. Eastern Time Network hourly news feed, the final news feed. New material on the feed, cuts 63 through 66.
Cut 63.
Grain and soy complex futures resumed the session to the upside. Soybean futures were higher on ideas. The rain yesterday and overnight missed the dry areas in the southern Midwest. The November contract was 10 cents higher at 479.5. The session high was 481 and the low was 470 3/4. Corn futures were higher on advancing soybeans and declining crop yield expectations. The December contract was up 1 3/4 cents at 2.29 3/4. The session high was 2.31 1/2, and the low was 2.27 3/4. Rough rice futures were trading from unchanged to slightly higher, with the September contract steady at 6.17. Wheat futures started the session higher on improved export demand. The December contract was 2 1/4 cents higher at 2.89 3/4. The day session high was 2.91 and the low was 2.87 1/2. Oat futures were slightly higher, with the September contract up 1 1/4 cents at 1.07 3/4. For more detailed information on grains in the Chicago Board of Trade, please log on to our website at www.cbot.com. I'm Max Zielinski for the Chicago Board of Trade.
Cut 64.
The National Transportation Safety Board says an hour before it crashed, Kennedy's plane flew too close to an American Airlines jet, so close that a radar controller alerted the crew on the jetliner. The NTSB will not say how close the planes came, but says there was no apparent risk of collision. It was close enough, though, that the American Airlines pilot told the radar controller that he could see Kennedy's plane from the cockpit. The incident happened over White Plains, New York, 150 miles from where Kennedy's plane crashed in the Atlantic. Neil Aukenstein, Washington.
Cut 65.
Close friends, including Vernon Jordan, are awaiting the president's arrival on Martha's Vineyard to celebrate his 53rd birthday. Before leaving, White House staffers are expected to give Clinton a gift at a private low-key gathering. The president's wife and daughter are accompanying him to the vineyard. The family will spend a week on the island, their favorite vacation spot, then make a brief trip to the Hamptons on Long Island before going on to their final vacation spot, the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York. The president will be taking along his golf clubs and a half dozen or so books. Don Folsom, the White House.
Cut 66. This is the UPI Radio Network.
Here's the latest from the UPI Financial Desk. A record trade deficit in June gave investors the jitters and sent stocks south. At mid-session, the Dow Jones Industrials were down almost 76 points at 10,915. Standard & Poor's 500 stock index was off over 13 points at 1319. The New York Exchange Composite Index was down over 5 points at 618. Decliners had an almost 2-to-1 margin over advancers, a volume of 329 million shares. One final story. This is the last broadcast from UPI Radio. United Press International is getting out of the radio business and has sold its contracts to Associated Press Radio. For those of us suddenly out of work, it's been fun. We feel UPI Radio has done its job well overall, even as we struggled with fewer and fewer resources. So we sign off now with smiles, memories, a few tears, but no regrets. I'm Craig Smith.